David Udell. I'm the group president for Asia Pacific for Hyatt Hotels Corporation. I've been based in Asia for the past 33 years. So it's been the biggest part of my life is living in this part of the world. I feel very privileged to have been a part of the journey with Hyatt and the development in Greater China over that period. So it's been a very, very exciting professional and personal period in my life.
Yeah, David, actually this is your 1 year anniversary of the new job, right? So can you tell us what's the most exciting development of Hyatt in this year?
Gosh, there's a lot of exciting developments. I think just the changing that's happening all around us, it's really impacting our industry in a lot of different ways, and it's our industry I think is quite traditional in many sense. It hasn't really evolved that greatly since going back to the sort of the mid 1800s when Escoffier and Ritz opened that hotel in Paris. So with the sharing economy, with the whole sort of impact of digital, social, mobile, it's really changing sort of the rules of engagement between hotels and customers and others. So it's I think in terms of fostering innovation, in terms of encouraging us to think in very, very different ways, it's this year has been, well, this year and the last couple of years have been very, very exciting. I guess that the key really in our business is that the fundamentals have to be right when it comes to operational excellence, when it comes to the way we deal with our customers. And when we talk about customers, it's not only about those people that we have the privilege of serving, it's also about, as a management company, we have owners that own us, so it's how we deal with them, it's how we deal with the communities in which we have the privilege of operating. So we have a lot of different stakeholders, a lot of different customers. So the dynamic with them is very important, and the fundamentals remain the same. It's really about care. It's really about very sincere desire to create strong emotional attachments with them. And that's something that sort of underlines everything that we do, that element of helping people to be at their best. So that's something that the company is very, very much focused on, and it's something which I don't know, appeals to my sentiments personally, and I'm very pleased to work in an environment where that's important and given priority in the way that we engage with others.
Yeah, and well, you have worked in this hospitality industry for many years. So, right. From your point, what's the latest trend and challenges in this industry?
There's a lot of it
what's
comes
what's a major trend then?
I think just the dynamics of the way that people are purchasing, the way that they're sort of dealing with hotels, channels of distribution are changing. I mean, if you look at you look at the whole trend of the way people book, or for that matter, the way that recommendations are made as to travel alternatives. How pervasive social is in terms of influencing people's buying decisions. So we're in a world now which is very transparent. It's very open. So how in many respects that's a great thing, because it encourages us to be very sincere in everything that we do. There's no veil to hide behind. People evaluate your service from pre-arrival, the whole booking experience, through to post-checkout. And I think all the dynamics are very important and something we need to deal with very openly. The other element, which is so interesting in our industry, is the whole sort of sharing economy. And you can see that with the success of companies like Uber, or for that matter, the development of companies like Airbnb. Our clients are looking for new opportunities, and Hyatt has embraced that. I think some hotel companies are somewhat hesitant, let's say, to to embrace all of those changes and opportunities that come with the sharing economy. We at Hyatt, we made an investment recently in a company called One Fine Stay, which is based in the UK, which high-end apartments and condominiums and so forth that are available for homes, that are available for rental online. And Hyatt's view is that, okay, that's a non-traditional alternative, but it's something that we would really benefit from forging an alliance with, which is why we invested the funds that we did, because we believe that there's a lot of learning that we can gain from that platform, and also we can give a lot in terms of rounding out what they're trying to do. So it's a dynamic world, and one it's exceedingly exciting. One has to be very nimble. One has to be very alert, but hopefully we can leverage all those opportunities for the benefit of our customers and our stakeholders going forward.
How do you work with companies like Airbnb? Because I thought you would be competitors rather than partners.
I think that first of all, that we have a big world out there. There's it's a big world, and there's a lot of different customers with a lot of different tastes and desires, and so I think there's room certainly for the likes of the Airbnbs. I think that's why, as I was saying, if you look at our investment in One Fine Stay, it's really acknowledging that there's definitely that segment of the sharing economy is interesting, and we as a model, accommodation model, which is more traditional, leveraging our expertise, which is very deep, very broad, certainly very global, with what they're bringing to the table as digital marketers of accommodation, bringing that together and learning from one another, that has to be very, very powerful going forward. And in the end, as I said, it's very beneficial for our stakeholders, whether it be the owners, our current owners, future owners, and of course our customers, and for that matter, our colleagues, our team members, because it gives them new opportunities to learn, to develop, and to serve.
Probably inspire you to.
Absolutely, yeah, and we have to embrace all of these things. I mean, I think it's just there's just too much going on to not want to absorb and to learn and to leverage going forward.
Yeah. And how about your business strategy in the region? Because you actually manage a big region from Australia to Korea. So what's the strategy?
Well, it's interesting. There's strategy again. If we look at it in terms of the different segments or different stakeholders or different people that we serve, at the end of the day, the fundamental part of it really is to be the preferred hotel brand for the segment that we serve, whether it be at the high end, for the likes of the Park Hyatts, or for the select service segment, economy segment, which is the Hyatt House, Hyatt Place. So how to become preferred? What does that really mean? And for us, I guess it really comes down to very human things. I talked about care, the importance of care, the importance of emotional connections. And there's great product all around. I mean, you look at Hong Kong, or you look at Beijing or Shanghai, you have hardware which is incredible, which is of international standard. But at the end of the day, it's really how you feel, how that personal connection that that our colleagues have. They say, we talk a lot about empathy, about putting ourselves in the other person's shoes. If you think about it, when we engage with you in our hotel, we're guests in your world, and it's important that we can help our colleagues understand that, because the whole dynamic of that is very different. It's that we have to understand what you have on your mind. What is going to make you feel comfortable? What is going to make you feel relaxed? And every person is very different. They have different backgrounds and motivations. And so I think if you talk about strategy, it's really about preference, and that's driven through those kind of very strong emotional connections. And there isn't a science to it. It's a lot about human dynamic. So it's exciting because it's not about, of course, there's a lot of science that goes into our business too, in terms of digital strategies, in terms of, things like you hear about revenue management and pricing and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's about those emotional connections and really making sure that people feel good and they say, you know what, I want to come back because Miss Lee or Mr. Chu or whatever really engage with me in a way that wow, I feel great, I feel recognized. So yes, and of course there's other strategies too. So I think obviously outbound business out of China is very, very exciting. Just the burgeoning middle class, what that brings to us in terms of traveling public. Again, trying to understand their needs and cater to it through different brands at different price points with different experiences. We have the Park Hyatt at the high end, like the Park Hyatt in Shanghai, the Park Hyatt in Beijing, the Grand Hyatt like here in Hong Kong. And then I was just visiting yesterday the Hyatt Place in Shenzhen, Dongmen, which again is a very, very simple product. Very economically priced, but very, very good attention to detail when it comes to that in-room experience. Because when you're in that room, the comfort of the bed, the temperature control, the water pressure, the air conditioning, the lighting, all very, very fundamental. But in our industry, we often don't get it right. It's something that we, the putting on makeup, in the morning or shaving without the correct level of light. These are all the fundamentals that we're trying to get right in a Hyatt Place scenario. Plus, what is the most important meal of the day? Breakfast. So trying to do that in a way which is delicious and sumptuous and filling, but at a very, very reasonable price. So it's coming up with these products and matching them with the potential market so that we can create that emotional connection and ultimately be preferred. Another great opportunity which we're seeing is the whole MICE market.
MICE market.
Meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. Within China, great business. If we look at growth, I think there's been statistics, something like 113% growth in MICE business over the past, I think, 2 years. And worldwide, the growth is something like 19%. So out of China, this is tremendous potential. And travelers are becoming more discerning. They're becoming more experience focused. So creating hotels that can cater to the diverse needs of these meeting delegates. There's some element of showmanship. There's an element of precision, of connection. In our hotels like the Grand Hyatt Hong Kong, Grand Hyatt Shanghai, Grand Hyatt Beijing, they really can play to that important market and meet those needs of the diverse traveler. I think there's a science to that because the complexities of those operations are quite vast. So to me, that's a very important strategic part of our business going forward.
I'm actually going to ask you about what's the growth drive of Hyatt in the region, but I guess you're going to answer me as China, right?
Absolutely.
And but competition in Chinese market is very fierce. So how could you grab more market share in this market?
That's an excellent question, and one that we talk a lot about and contemplate a lot about. I think at the end of the day, the battle for the hearts and minds of Chinese consumers in large part really has to start with the proof points on the experience within China. Currently, we have about 25 hotels. We're not the biggest by any means, but we really try, as I said, to be the preferred. And what is so important is that when visitors, when guests, when the local community comes to those hotels, that they feel good, that they feel that there's something special, that they feel this recognition, that they feel this care. So it begins with the domestic market within China and making sure that we are creating the right relationship. And I guess this also relates to a strategy which we want to be leaders when it comes to food and beverage. So when we think about our hotels, unlike some of our competitors, they think about food and beverage as a means of serving, sort of an amenity that serves their in-house guests. For us, it's a whole nother litmus test. We evaluate success on how our restaurants fare in the community. So we want to be a part of the community. We want people in in Shenzhen, for example, where we have a Grand Hyatt, to feel that that's their hotel and that they love it and that they're proud to celebrate there. They're proud to have meetings there. They're proud to. So food and beverage is critical, and that affinity with the local market is key. So I think there's quite a number of different ways that that we're that are important for us as we move forward. But food and beverage is definitely at the top of the list and something that distinguishes us from others.
I do have a colleague love your service restaurants in Shenzhen.
Oh, great! Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's an interesting hotel. I mean, if you look at it within that hotel, I think we have 11 different food and beverage outlets. They're all very successful, and it's about. I think for us, it's really about authenticity. And as we go forward, as we go in, not only in gateway markets, but particularly as we go into secondary or tertiary cities, which is a big part of our thrust going forward in China. It's about how to provide services and products in your restaurants, in your banquets, whatever, that really appeal to the local market, to the taste. We don't want to bring New York to Jinan, or we don't want to bring if we're going to go to Hangzhou, and we have a very successful restaurant there. It's really about doing Zhejiang cuisine correctly and with the right sense and the right taste, and that's where, for me, obviously, I'm not an expert, but what I am committed to is really getting the right team members together who have the right sensitivity and the right passion to be able to deliver that in a way that makes the local market really proud. And that's the art. That's the art and the thrill of being in this business today.
I guess that's quite challenging because you're making local food in this place that everybody familiar. So you either be great or people say, hey, this is not like our cuisine.
So so I think hoteliers oftentimes they feel that they have when they operate a hotel or they open a restaurant, they have to do from A to Z. They have to do everything. So I think what we've learned is the wonderful benefit and value in doing one thing really well. I mean, if you look at it, there's you can go to food stalls in some cities in China where someone is doing is producing a particular type of soup or whatever it is, and there's a line. People are waiting, and it's not particularly expensive, but it's valued because of generation after generation have been preparing that in the best of ingredients and the best cooking preparation. We see value in that, and that's sort of as we evolve in our food and beverage pursuit, particularly in secondary, tertiary cities, is how to bring that spirit of taste, quality, authenticity to what we do, and to do it at a price point that's reasonable. And of course, you have the embellishment of beautiful surroundings, and maybe if you want to have that beautiful soup, but have it with a glass of a very nice Italian wine, or you want to have it with homemade ice cream or whatever afterwards. Those are the things where we can add the twist and the special sort of feature of it. I mean, case in point is, I don't know whether you've been to Made in China, which is
I'm from Mainland China.
But have you been to, at the Grand Hyatt Beijing, there's a restaurant called Made in China.
Oh, no.
And it was very interesting because what we did was, of course, Beijing has all of these wonderful Peking duck restaurants that are fantastic. So years ago, when we opened Grand Hyatt Beijing in 2001, we sort of created our own Beijing duck restaurant, which all open kitchens and very visual, and so you can have your Beijing duck and you can have other Beijing specialties, but you can also have tiramisu and other special Western desserts and beautiful wine selection. So the net result of that preparation and that development is that a lot of local people want to entertain there, and a lot of foreigners want to go there because they feel that they're getting a very local experience, but in the confines of a beautiful hotel. So that's a lot of the type of things that we're doing. A lot of commitment to detail and authenticity.
You just told me you have 25 hotels in China at this moment, and you're looking into the tier 2 and tier 3 cities
Yes.
as expansion.
Yeah.
So what's your plan, like expansion plan in China, and how to recognize the potential of the smaller cities?
So that's exciting. I mean, obviously, as you said before, China is a big part of our plan going forward. We evaluate the opportunities very carefully. Again, if you compare our numbers, our existing hotels to some of our larger competitors, we're smaller, and I think that's played to a very clear and very well-defined growth strategy. We opened our first hotel in Tianjin in 1986, and then we sort of we had a few other openings like in Xi'an, but the big hotel very significant opening was in 1999 when we opened the Grand Hyatt in Shanghai in Pudong area, the Jin Mao Tower, which is definitely an iconic hotel. So we've always been, we haven't been necessarily the first mover in the markets that we've gone into, but it's really about being in the right place with the right partner, with the right product. And that's served us exceedingly well. I mean, if we look at the brand health studies that we do, Hyatt within China, within the domestic market, is a very powerful, very well perceived brand. So as we go forward, we want to leverage on the success that we've had so far. But again, it isn't about being the most prolific or having the greatest number, greatest distribution. It's really about having a product which is distinct and also in the long run is sustainable. Because again, a lot of projects in China have been developed for different reasons, different motivations. And again, different fundamentals. And we want to make sure that as we go forward that this hotel is not only going to be financially viable and financially successful in years to come, but it's also something that we can be proud of reputationally, that the owner can be proud of reputationally. So to get back to your question, it's really a lot of different variables that come into the development equation. I think from a development point of view and also from an operations point of view, we've established ourselves with a great local team. So we're not sort of operating and developing with people that are unfamiliar to with the areas. I'm being a American and I still consider, after 33 years in Asia, I still consider myself as a very privileged sort of visitor to this part of the world. And people say, "Oh, David, you must understand the culture." I say, I think I understand a little bit, but whenever something comes up that surprises me, I realize that I don't understand. But what that does, or how that prepares me, is I really understand and I'm committed to the contribution, the expertise, the talent of my local colleagues that guide the kind of decisions that we need, particularly when it comes to the development of new hotels, the development of new products and services to connect with our customers. So to say that brainstorming is a huge word within our vocabulary. A lot of different people at different levels of the organization getting together to express themselves and to contribute. That's part of the culture that we're really trying to create within our organization.
And I guess because you talk about the sustainable brand and a recognizable brand and a sustainable products, you are not going to aggressively expand in China, but make sure the quality is right?
Yeah, I think that there's a very fine balance that exists between expansion, because of course we don't want to miss opportunities. We want to grow, we want to develop. We owe that to our shareholders. We owe that to our colleagues, our employees, because we want them to have opportunities and to be able to advance, because we're very committed to internal development. I think Hyatt is known. I mean, one of the reasons that we sort of get poached by others is because there's a great recognition for the Hyatt brand when it comes to employees, when it comes to our colleagues, because they know that the training process, the development process is very rigorous and very nurturing. So once someone has a few years under their belt and is a true Hyatt family member, they're sought after by others. That's something that we're very proud of. But yeah, I mean, we want to make sure that our hotels are successful. We want to make sure that they're sustainable. We want to make sure that reputationally they're very much recognized and a part of the communities that they operate in. But so it's a balance. It's definitely a balance. But we see tremendous. I mean, right now we have a very rich pipeline of growth. One of the areas, again, with the development of the rising middle class with urbanization, there's that ability to enjoy an international experience, but at a price point which is reasonable. So again, Hyatt House, Hyatt Place, great opportunities, particularly in those secondary and tertiary markets.
How many new hotels do you plan to open, like in the next several years in China?
So we usually don't talk in great specificity about the numbers, but I can say to you that relative to our existing number of hotels that we're operating, we have amongst the richest pipeline. So it's pretty significant, and it's one that's growing. And we're very committed. As a matter of fact, we're looking all the time at ways that we can cultivate. And again, through creativity, again, like we spoke about at the very beginning of our conversation, is that one has to revisit all the time the dynamics that exist in the market. And as a management company, we manage on behalf of others. In the case of Asia, we own one hotel, which is in Seoul, the Grand Hyatt in Seoul. But for the most part, we're managing on behalf of others. So again, as things change and evolve, we have to be very empathetic also to the needs of our owners. And when we forge a partnership, really to understand what their objectives are and to ensure that we can deliver. And I think that's something, again, because of the pace of our development, because of I guess you could say, the personalization of our development, we're recognized as being different and somewhat special, and that relationship are very important to us, or those relationships are very important to us as we go forward.
Can you tell us where is the frontier market inside China for you?
Gosh, there's a lot actually. We're looking for example, we've got potential projects, in the West, in the Northwest. We have potential projects, for way up north, and so there really isn't any market that we are sort of shy to study and to learn about, and that's why we spend a lot of time on the road, myself included, from a learning point of view, of going to these places and getting a feel for it and talking to people that live there, consumers in those places, potential owners. So it's really about you can have all the science in the world. You can look at the growth and the sort of the macroeconomic influences, whatever. But there's nothing that's better than being on the ground and getting a sense and talking to people and listening in terms of sizing up those potential markets. And that's true also outside of China as well. So we obviously, Japan is a very interesting market for us now with the run up to the 2020 Olympics. A lot of activity going on, and that's also important to us, quite frankly, because of the outbound Chinese traveler too, because Japan remains with the weakening yen and just the sort of value proposition for Chinese travelers. We're very, very keen on making sure that the experiences there are top notch and again distinct. And Hyatt, we've got some incredible product in that market, which puts us in very good stead for outbound travelers, like from places like China and other parts of Asia.
Probably Southeast Asia and Korea too.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So we can continue about your story.
Right.
Before you joined Hyatt, what do you do?
So I graduated from university and I joined Hyatt actually. So I was I joined. I was a graduate of the Cornell School of Hotel Administration in upstate New York, and Hyatt came and interviewed at the school, and I was hired in Singapore as a corporate, what they call a corporate trainee. So I'm really a product of 33 years. I've been a product of the same company. So but that's not unnatural. Yesterday there were 13 Hyatt family members around the table. We counted that there was 240 years of combined time with the company. So you can see that it's not very unique to have that. Mr. Larry Chu, who's now our senior advisor and great mentor of mine, who was my predecessor, he's celebrating on the 1st of September his 45th anniversary with the company. So we've got, I think that's part of that longevity, that long service period is part of the unique culture that makes Hyatt what Hyatt is today.
When you were in your 20s and they told you we're going to send you to Singapore,
Yes.
all the way from America, how do you feel?
Well, so the first thing I did when I got the offer was I called my mother, and I said to my mother, I was been given this offer to go to Singapore. So her response to me was, "Well, David, if you don't go, I'll go." So I was very well supported from the very beginning, and actually, my mother often says that the different parents have children. Some are doctors, some are lawyers. If you have a son who's a doctor, the only time that you can engage with them professionally is when you're ill. But the great thing is when you have a son who's in the hotel business, you get to experience all these different places. And I think in the 33 years that I've been out here, my parents visited something like 25 times. So I've been very privileged to share those kind of family experiences together.
Yeah, and I learned that before you go back to Chicago for the Global Operations Center,
Yes.
you actually spent 11 years in Hong Kong, right?
Yes, right.
So this is your return to Hong Kong. So how
Right.
do you find this city different from now and then?
I find it's quite again it's really the dynamism which is it sort of continues to grow and to build, and I find it very interesting to now with the dynamic of more travelers coming from China and trying to understand their needs, the diverse needs. I find that's an exciting challenge for our industry, and again, a lot of the travelers that are coming as individuals, and they're looking for very unique experiences, very to touch and to feel and to have the opportunity to engage in a very personal way. So it's this city is just incredibly it's the best of the best. It's great customers, it's great operators, it's great standards, it's best food and beverages from all around the world. So I find it's a great environment to be in the industry that we're in. Also, I think from as we talked before, meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. We're located here at the Grand Hyatt. We're located just adjacent to to the convention center. Perfect for all of those types of events. The other thing which inspires me, actually not only in Hong Kong, but elsewhere in China, is the spirit of the young people and the energy and the passion of the young people, and it forces us. I believe like in reverse mentoring. I've been blessed to have a lot of mentors that have helped and sort of cultivated me to along the way have nurtured me. And but I'm in places like Hong Kong, Beijing, Shanghai, having these really intelligent, engaged, enthusiastic colleagues that can give me and others like me, my team members, feedback on how we can do things better. That's pretty exciting. And cities like this really sort of cultivate that kind of spirit and energy. So.
Talking about young people
Yes.
in the local community, do you have any memory of anyone who have left, who have been impressive to you? Any young people?
A lot. Yeah, I mean, I find it. I mean, yesterday I was, as I was in Shenzhen and just talking. Whenever we travel, obviously we have a chance to communicate with our colleagues and talk to them and listen to them. And I just, particularly in China, I find that the sense of humor of young people is amazing. And even like even though English is, they may not, English is obviously not their first language, but they're very quick in learning. But I find it's not really superficial. It's not just like learning for the sake of learning grammar or whatever. They actually understand in the nuances of the language and the fun of the language. And so I really enjoy working with young people. I feel like when I have a day like yesterday where I spend the day in a hotel or in a couple of hotels, and I return back to the office, I feel invigorated. I feel like recharged again. That's why I cannot spend too much time in the office. It's not a good thing for creativity and inspiration. So.
I see. And actually, you have been in this industry for very long. So I wonder what's in the industry that attracts you the most?
Yeah, I've been in the when I keep saying, like, when I just celebrated my 33rd anniversary on the 1st of August, which is actually a year since I've come back from Chicago. So it's a couple of auspicious anniversary, and with the 8/28 or the 28th, so that's a good number anyway. But most attractive is really, I think, working with people. It's a people business, working with all different types of people, whether it be, as I said, your customers that you're trying to best connect with and to serve, your owners, your employees, the communities. I just find I love people. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but I think the hotel business is interesting, but doing it in different cultures, in different places, and trying to make sure that you engage with the local community in a way which is relevant. So understanding enough, being sensitive enough, being empathetic enough so that you can engage meaningfully, that to me is a lot of fun and very, very exciting. And if you look at within Asia Pacific, it's 11 or 12 markets that we're operating in. They're all different. There's all different shades of nuance that one has to deal with. And that part of it, I love it. I feel very privileged to have that opportunity to do that.
So how do you manage the culture difference within your team and also across different markets that you look after?
Yeah, I think that comes down to, first of all, creating an environment where people can feel that they can express themselves. And so I think amongst certainly amongst those of us that come from other parts of the world and working here, we need to make sure that they're the right kind of person, meaning that they're very, very open-minded and very receptive, and also I think very grateful for the opportunity to work, in these different markets. I mean, I feel, I'm exceedingly privileged, as I've used that word before, is that it's just been a thrill. So I think before anything else, before technical acumen, ability, it really comes down to attitude. And if you've got people with the right attitude, that people that want to work together, I always use the analogy of kind of like dragon boat. You've got 22 people that are in the boat and everyone is rowing. I mean, for me, what is important is I want to be with like other really, really talented people. I don't need to be the most talented person. I want to be with people that can complement me and I can complement them, and that's how you win. And I think that's when we look at ourselves as an organization, it's about bringing together really diverse, really talented people that can work with one another, and be very secure in ourselves about what we know and what we're good at and what others know and what they're good at, and just trying to bring it out in the best way so that we can win and we can be a leader. And that's kind of the approach that we take in the way that we work.
I guess the Dragon Boat spirit is your business philosophy, right?
Yes, yes.
So as a leader, like for such a big market, what would you remind yourself to keep in mind?
I think it's about, we all have to be very self-aware, because, we grow up in this business, and, you sort of, you think as a leader that what you're doing is the right way to go. And oftentimes, again, because we've been in the business for a long time, we think that we have all the answers. That sometimes an issue will come and you just sort of almost a reflex is to come up with a particular answer. I think it's really to foster a culture where people feel that they can speak up and they can contribute, and irrespective of whether they're at the most senior level of the organization or more junior, that they can contribute. There's this, in Asia and Greater China, sometimes you talk to people and they'll use the expression, "Oh, I'm just like a little peanut. I'm just a small, a little." I say, no. Forget about that. Everybody's opinion counts here. You're closest to where the issues are. I mean, you're working at the front desk. You're serving guests in the restaurant. I mean, if you don't know the real detail of what's happening on the floor, then you know it far better than I do or others do. So it's really about creating that kind of environment. And the other thing, which I think particularly for millennials, young people going forward, is that the work-life balance is so important, because our industry is, I used to say that, use the expression like martyr management, like because your boss was there for 12 hours a day, you had to be there 13 hours a day because that was the expectation. People change now, it's different. In the end, one thing which doesn't change, which is super crucial, and I think something that is, separates Hyatt from others, is this warm, nurturing environment where there are mentors, because that mentoring thing is crucial. And particularly today, where young people, they don't want to just march, they want to know why. They want to know what makes sense. Is this logical? And at the same time, they're looking up at their bosses and they're saying, does this guy walk the talk? Does this guy or this lady walk the talk? Do they really, we know what a leader is supposed to be, but do they represent that? Because if they look up and they see that the people don't, then they're going to go somewhere else, because they don't want to tolerate hypocrisy. And in this world today, that's crucial, and that's something that we question ourselves all the time to make sure that we're not creating that kind of hypocritical work environment. It's not perfect, it's not easy, but it is front and central in our radar.
I see. So to engage young colleagues and learn idea from them, and also encourage them to be part of the business, it's also very crucial for you.
Absolutely.
And because you have a lot of experience in the industry and be leader for a long time, so can you share with us some of your experience of managing crisis? What's the crisis that you can't forget in your career?
Gosh, there's been a few. I guess really in looking at it, it's about creating a calm environment, which when something happens where whether it's people's lives are in danger or other things, it's really making sure that you create an environment amongst those that are coordinating it, that where there's logic and calmness, and that you're sort of trying to ensure that issues which potentially can escalate are kept in very good perspective. I mean, one of the things that happened a few years ago is now 4 years ago was the whole Fukushima the tsunami and the melting down of the nuclear reactors, and that was a very, very tense situation. And there were a lot of during that time, a lot of countries were pulling back their nationals and what have you. And we were operating at that time. I think we're operating 5 or 6 hotels in Japan, and from a Japanese perspective, these hotels were places where people seek refuge and where people go for comfort, and it was a very, very stressful time. So how to deal with fortunately we didn't have any hotel that was directly affected by being in close proximity to that, but there was a huge fallout, emotional fallout, when it comes to our team members, our employees, the owners of our hotels, our guests, whatever. So again, being very calm, being very empathetic also to those involved, trying to put yourself in others' footsteps, and really subordinating often like commercial issues, because in times of crisis it's really about getting it resolved, helping people, and then worrying about the other things are far less important. And again, the teamwork is that stepping up, and of course you need to have a leader in times of crisis, and someone that's out there to deal with different stakeholders. But it's really about trusting and leveraging the expertise of those around you in order to bring to bear the best solution or the best approach.
I see. Where were you during the Fukushima crisis?
So I was actually interesting. It's like all these kind of things. You remember exactly where you were. I was in Hainan Island at the time. We were doing work on we have quite a number of projects there, and at the time we were doing research for what is now the Park Hyatt Sunny Bay in Sanya. So I was there, and the gentleman who's responsible for Japan called me immediately and said, gave me an update. So I flew back to Hong Kong, and then the next day, because there was a lot of issues with the airport and everything as well. It was quite messy. So we got I flew in together with our global head of security, who's somebody who had a lot of experience with this type of thing before, and we came in, and then we worked together with the teams there to deal with the different issues. So again, being on the ground at times like that, being especially as the leader, there isn't a lot that I can physically do because of my own limitations. There are experts that are far better at the technical part of it, but just being there at least and dealing with the individuals that are concerned, I think it helps, and I hope it helps them, but it certainly helps me to get a better sense of what's happening. So
I see. And I guess it comes to about the local talents, because Hong Kong is traditionally a good place to nurture hospitality industry talents. So what's your advice for local young people who want to join this industry?
I think it's a great industry. It's one where it's so diverse in terms of what one can learn and what one can do. So I think it's a great business, and it's one where I think if you like people and you really believe that in the ability to improve people's experience, to improve their daily life, it's something that is incredible. I mean, if you're involved in events, if you're involved in creating weddings for people, I mean, my God, I mean, within minutes of the group walking into that room, whether you've captured their hearts, and then as the event goes on, by the end of it, whether you've created something which is really going to be, a lifetime memory. And that can be, there's a lot of examples of that. It can be a dinner, it can be a business dinner where you can tell, was the outcome as expected? Did you delight those people? Did you help facilitate something that's going to be powerful because of the dynamic that existed from the food, from the service, whatever? So there's a lot of different I think well, the way I look at it is that within one day, you can engage in so many different aspects of from engineering to, to creativity, to flowers, to financial statements, to, you name it. It's very, very diverse. So if you're interested in having an experience where you can learn so many different things, it's a great industry, and it's a creative one. You're in show business. You can say whatever you want. It's all the technology in the world. At the end of the day, it's an emotional business, show business. So you've got to have a sense for that. You have to have a feeling for that. If it's all about commerce, of course, we're in the business to make money. There's no doubt. Otherwise, whatever. But in order to get there, the journey to making money, the journey to becoming preferred, that's where really the show business aspect, the emotional part of it, is integral and essential. And that's what I really love that very, very much. I feel privileged to be part of that. So.
Yeah, and also for Hong Kong people, this is an international city.
Right.
And what would it be your advice to them if they want to be successful in the international business world, not just in Hong Kong, not just in China, but internationally?
I think it comes down to attitude. It comes down to spirit. It comes down to stuff, they say like you can't learn like from a book, because I think that there's a lot of great book learning, and you can go to the great universities of this world, but when it comes down to it, it's how you engage as a person. And you can have people that are incredibly bright, but if their antennas are not very receptive, they're not very empathetic, they can't really put themselves in the place of someone else, then all that great knowledge and all that great capability is diminished considerably. So what it is that I'd say is like, be humble, be receptive, be willing to learn, be a good question asker, maybe ask more questions and listen more than speaking, and recognize that it's a team effort. Recognize it's not one striker that makes a football team. It's not one rower that makes a dragon boat. It's really the combination of yourself together with other colleagues. And I guess finally is being secure in yourself. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's got all the answers, but being secure in what you bring to the proposition, that's pretty powerful, and that puts you in good stead for whatever it is that you do going forward.
And last question, what's the book you're reading at this moment?
Oh gosh, probably books that are not.
Do you still read books today?
I do. I've just read a book that by David Marquet, who is a nuclear submarine captain, and basically in that book he was talking. It's really about. He went into a submarine where there was a lot of different issues, a lot of problems, a lot of, and he talks about it, very funny. He talks about his team asking him for an order, and he gave an order for something that it didn't to convert the submarine to a speed that didn't exist, because it was something that was only in another type of submarine. But his number two followed the order, even though the number two knew that the submarine couldn't be go that speed. And so his sort of the moral of the story is, look, you have to create an environment where you leverage the expertise of your team, and not be an order giver, but create an environment where people naturally speak up and give of themselves for the benefit of the organization. And that book is one that I love it, because it's really a lot of learning that's very appropriate to myself and to our industry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.